Declare pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof for the agenda of this meeting, or for minutes of a meeting in which a member was not in attendance. I would also ask that you turn off your and I'll do it first, communication devices and video type units. And we shall carry right on to item number 3. We have a delegation tonight, Dave McLeod and Gary Ripley, regarding the naming of Centennial Park in honor of the late Mayor Phil Vidette. So Dave and Gary, lots of room at the table there. Or Mr. McLeod and Mr. Ripley, I apologize. The floor is yours, Mr. McLeod.
Thank you. Nobody's calling Mr. McLeod. It's Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff. It's really nice for a variety of reasons to be here this evening. One, just to see friends and some faces we haven't seen in a long time. The other, and more importantly, is just to talk about something that might be really good for our community, would be good for our community, and it's just a little way of recognizing a former mayor, friend, and long-time community member. Having said that, I must apologize for my attire. I just come out of the bush chasing bears, and we were successful in finding a bear that a young lady shot. And so I tore here, and I not only probably smell like a bear, Carol, but I look kind of nice. So my apologies. Don't normally come to a council or a delegation looking like I just got out of work. Having said that, most of you know that Phil and I go back forever, 42 years. And I had the pleasure of working with Phil in the school board. I as a director and Phil as a trustee. Carol as a trustee, long time ago. And I got to know Phil, as I said, at this ceremony in a particular manner. And over the years, you work with a person in a variety of things. When Phil was a counselor and as a mayor, the school board and the municipality did things together. And this facility was one of them. We built this cooperatively because neither of us had a decent place in which to go to work. And so Phil was representing the municipality and I was representing the school board in construction. And the list went on of my association with Phil from a perspective. I didn't fish with Phil or drink beer with Phil. I just did things with Phil, either for the school board or municipality, et cetera. And so I got to know Phil as somebody who spent an inordinate amount of time and energy and thinking processes on things to make the community a better place. And a lot of community members, or most community members, don't understand the time you guys put into your job. It's not a job, your work. They know you're elected, but until they walk in your shoes, they don't know what a person gives to fulfill a role of a counselor or a trustee or something of that nature. And so, I always thought that those folks I work with were the unsung heroes of the organization. And that typified Phil. He just steadily, constantly was in that mindset. One of the things that stuck in my mind about Phil is that we drive by coming into Red Lake, and Red Lake wasn't a pretty picture all the time. When you drove into town, you kind of wonder, what the heck am I doing moving here, coming into this place, because it looked poor. And so between the municipality and the school board of fixing up things and doing things in a really nice way, Red Lake's is really an impressive place in which to drive into today. You arrive by air, you come to one of the most nicest airports, I think, in the province. It's just super Well, that's the gateway to Red Lake from that perspective. Driving in on the highway is the gateway to Red Lake. And it's due to that which you see and you feel and you bring your family through is due to people like yourselves and trustees and a few other interested people in our community. It takes effort, dedication, and vision. We go by where the park is today, and Phil says, we've got to do something with this shithole. Excuse the expression, but that was what Phil was saying. And I went through that over about a 20-year period. You drive in. And over time, we see what we have today, and it's really, really nice. So, part of the thinking about the Centennial Park, and why we're here tonight, is we really think, and a lot of people really feel, that it would be super to have that named after Phil, because that was his vision for a long time. It was his vision also as part of what do you see when you come to Red Lake, and how do you feel when you come back to Red Lake after being on a trip? And I've said to the media and to others that you can build a park and you can build a park. There's parks all over the place, but that's a special park. It's filled with material that costs more to start with, but it's going to be good for a long, long time. Normally you build a fence, in 10 years it's fallen down. And how do you fix a fence when you've got other things to fix? Well, the fence was made, this is one of the symbols of doing something right, and that's what Phil stood for. The multi-use of the park, it's really, really good for our community. I didn't know that Phil proposed to his wife in the park. I don't know what it looked like in those days, what Phil was doing back there in those days, but it's Anyway, there's a lot of reasons why quite a number of people would think it would be really appropriate for you folks to give the utmost consideration to naming the park after Phil, and for some of the reasons that I mentioned.
Dave phoned me late afternoon and said he might not make it. He had a problem with some of his hundred over the bush. Anyway, so I scratched out a whole bunch of things here. I'm glad I don't have to do that now. Thank you. Anyway, Dave and I came to council tonight to ask council to honor Mayor Phil Bennett by renaming Centennial Park to Phil Bennett Centennial Park. He was instrumental in obtaining funding for the park, skateboard park, splash pad, and hopefully next year the events and marketing position for the present outdoor skating. The municipality has in the past commemorated local citizens who have served the municipality well over the years. Name a few: Ed Fulgen, Airport Terminal, Elmer Pine, Park Rail Beach, Ron Robinson, Northland Park, Laverty Park, and Woodley Street. And we would like to see some stonework on either side of the entrance to the park, rather than just an opening in the fence as it is now. And I would like to see Ron's flag stating Mayor Bennett's many public services to the municipality over the years. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Might I add, not only did Mayor Bennett propose to his bride in Centennial Park, he also married her. So he kind of did almost a half life cycle, or better than a half life cycle, in Centennial Park, from proposal through marriage through to his funeral. It always held a very near and dear spot in his heart. I know he spoke to me about it many times. It would seem a natural progression to me to continue on with that in perpetuity, if you will, by doing exactly what our delegation is looking for tonight. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, excuse my ignorance for the process. We leave here tonight, what happens next?
So that's an over to our CAO.
We generally like to get a feel for the delegation obtaining further information after the meeting and over the next week or so, and then we'll bring it back to council. So it would come back on September 10th to council.
Thank you.
And that I'm assuming would be a yea or a nay,
Correct.
a resolution.
Will it be on the agenda? Did you say it'd be on the agenda?
Correct.
Okay.
For the committee of the whole on the 10th.
Maybe the whole agenda.
And then following that, it would go to the council meeting the following week for official. Councilor Barron.
But I think we can also assure the group that's here tonight, a decision will be made before the next new council shows up at this table. Because I think the people around this table know your feelings, know what we're here for, and know what we would like. Need some time to let it all sink in, but I think you folks need to know before we get the list of 4 mayors, 12 councillors. I think this group right here should give you back your answer what we would like to see done.
That's wonderful.
So I'm assuming we're all going to be making that decision next month.
Great.
Well, thank you for your time, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, and you're more than welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting.
Oh,
And if you do, you'll be the first people to take us up on that.
Okay, we'll just stay here.
Other than Gary, he sat through a few, or Mr. Ridley, rather.
that's right.
Yeah. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Sandy, when you have a whole bunch of people want to stay for the whole meeting, it usually means there's some issues.
Yes.
Usually means you're in trouble.
Moved by Councillor Mota, seconded by Councillor Barron. Resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Red Lake hereby consider sections 4 to 8, Part 1 of the consent agenda as read, and adopt the item. And adopt the item. Yes, does anyone wish to hold any of those items or to vote on them separately? I'll start with Councillor Mota. Yeah.
I'm good, thank you.
Councillor Barron
I'm fine with everything in that section.
and Councillor Goodwin.
I'm good too.
So I call the question, I'll read the resolution once again. Resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Red Lake hereby considers sections 4 to 8 of Part 1, the consent agenda as read, and adopt the items. All in favor? Carried. And once again, moved by Councillor Mota, seconded by Councillor Barron. Resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Red Lake hereby consider all bylaws, Section 9 of Part 1 of the consent agenda as read, without amendment or debate a first and second time. All in favor? Opposed? Oh, carried. And moved by Councillor Goodwin, seconded by Councillor Mota. Resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Red Lake hereby consider all bylaws, Section 9 of Part 1 of the consent agenda, as read a third time and passed. Does anyone wish to discuss any of the bylaws in Section 9? I'll start with Councillor Goodwin.
I'm good to go.
Councillor Barron
I'm fine with them.
and Councillor Mota.
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. So again, resolved, Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Red Lake hereby consider all bylaws, Section 9 of Part 1 of the consent agenda, as read a third time and passed. All in favor? Carried. Report of Council 11.1. AMO, Annual General Meeting and Conference for discussion. Mr. CAO.
Perfect. So, myself and Councillor Barron traveled to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario last week in Ottawa, and we felt we'd come back and give a report, and I'll pass it over to Councillor Barron to start us off.
If I may, Mr. CAO, I traveled as far as Thunder Bay, where the lovely Porter Airlines informed me my flight was canceled because they needed the plane elsewhere. And I could fly out sometime the next day, maybe, without benefit of hotel room or meals, of course. Thank you, Porter Airlines. So therefore, I was supposed to be there, but I wasn't. Go ahead, Councilor.
I'll start off on Thursday night. I got a little monologue as how I traveled, but I'll cut it short. I left on Saturday, and then I met Mark on Sunday night to sit down and discuss the situation that had gone on with yourself, the mayor, and this Porter Airline. And then we started to discuss Monday how we were going to carry on from there. So then we met again on Monday and went down to the Westin Hotel to meet Finance Minister Victor Fedeli, and had a meeting with him. It was sort of like a meet and greet type meeting. It was kind of a funny atmosphere because he had just nicely got, as we all know, elected earlier this year. So and then he got appointed to this Minister of Finance. And some of us on the other side really don't know where we're going to be this time in 3 or 4 months' time. So it was sort of a kind of I will leave it as a meet and greet. Very nice gentleman. We thanked him very much for meeting us because we have had, as we all know here at this table, difficulty trying to get a hold of the Minister of Finance in the past. So to me, it was a real breath of fresh air that he opened his door and he did accept us as a delegation. We met his entourage that was there. We had talked to, he asked myself a bunch of questions and I answered him accordingly. And I can't remember all that I answered, but nobody commented or anything that was wrong. So then Mark had created speaking notes before we left. Each one of us had got those speaking notes. And so I turned it over to Mark to give us a little bit more detail to the Minister of Finance as to what we were there and our main topics of what we wanted to chat with him. So do you want to bring us up to date on that before I move on, or do you want me to carry on and what else we did after that?
Sure. So the two items that we spoke to, the first was the municipal transient accommodation tax, which we like the changes, but we feel that it's falling just a bit short. And again, you partner with a tourism organization. In our case, we're in dialogue with Highway 105 Tourism. But you partner up, and any funds that are generated, 50% goes to tourism, 50% goes to the municipality. And our discussion to date was anything, when we do enter into this, and this will be a decision of council further down the road, whether we follow the Suacoats and the Dryades and the Thunder Bays on implementing an accommodation tax, that 50% of municipalities would potentially go into an infrastructure, tourism infrastructure fund dedicated. But we spoke to the piece that we feel is missing, that similar communities like Red Lake do have a lot of transient workers, and they come in the form of coming in for 28 days, leave for 14, come in for 14, leave for 7, or come in for 7, leave for 7. And we think there's a real opportunity that it's an opportunity because we know at some point the ore is going to be gone. And so how do we prepare for that, our sustainable future? And this could be an opportunity. But right now, we have got a legal opinion on it based on the new regulations. surrounding this municipal accommodation tax, that it would not be allowable. So we asked the minister to give consideration to it. And he was accepting of it, and he accepting of it in the sense that he would get back to us and look into it. The second thing we spoke to was the pipeline taxation. Right now, we receive 70% of our residential rate, and we are the low community. And in a comparison that we did back in 2011, we are the lowest community in our area, and we're asking for more. We're not asking to be highest, but we want to be comparable to Ignis, which is 1.1% of the residential rate. So we're asking for that as well. And again, the minister said he would review it and would get back to us. And we did make note that we were very thankful for that meeting, because I believe it was 11 years. It was the last time that the municipality of Red Lake got into finance. And it was a really good meeting. And so Councilor Barron, I would say it was a successful meeting, good inroads. The minister said, directly looked at his staff, looked at us and said, we will respond. So, because we have had zero response from finance for all 5 years that I've been here.
I believe it's been 6 years since they even answered a letter from us.
So being optimistic, there's opportunity. So at least they're going to listen to us, and I think we have a really good case with the pipeline taxation.
Then we split up, and Mark had other things to do. I went back to the workshop area, and I listened to the gentleman, Nick Nails, and he's the company that's doing the 2018 elections. So he gave us a little bit of a walkthrough on what they are going to be doing for different municipalities when it comes closer to our voters lists and closer to our actually being able to go to vote for the candidates that they have all over. They're a large company, and they have an awful lot of municipalities that they are running the election for in Southern Ontario and the North, they said. So he talked just briefly about their process. Then I went and listened to, or I should say I sat there and listened to the Premier Ford, who came in and addressed the group of us that were sitting there, him and his entourage. He's told us about all the things that he's done since he got elected. There again, he's new to his job, but we all certainly have followed him along the way as to what decisions he has made. And he's telling us about some of the future things that he wants to look at. And he said that there'll be no surprises, because he told us all about it when he was running for election to be prepared for his candidacy. He thought he had made it quite clear to all of us to what to expect, and he's coming carrying forward with his plan. Then I went to the luncheon by the Northern Caucus session, and I listened to speeches of people that wanted to be on the AMO board from the North. And there was 3 gentlemen there, and they all talked to us, and we had dinner, and it was sponsored by the Canadian Energy Pipelines Association. And they wanted to know questions from the audience about, do we know where our pipelines are? Do we know how many we've got in these cities that you live in? And if you don't, you should go back home and find out the locations in every municipality at your area where they are. And you should never dig before you're called and find out what you're digging in. If you dig it into a natural gas pipeline, you should know what you're doing. So then later on in the afternoon, Mark and I got together again, and this time we went to a round table. And we went to see Minister Craig Rickford for MNTM. And this was a very interesting meeting. I've sat a lot of times in a lot of meetings in my time, but this one was really interesting. This round table consists of Red Lake, Moosonee, and Fort Frances. We all gathered together. There was 2 people from each one of these communities. I think we were all 2 people in there. And in each municipality, and the minister chatted with each community wanting to know what our municipalities really need in the future. Because he said, I'm sure that you're going to be, coming to me and my ministry down the road. And it's very interesting to hear. There again also, it sort of was like a meet and greet, because there again, Greg Rickford, new area, and a big area that he has. And he's wanting to try and meet as many people as he could at AMO. So he wanted to know a bit about what each municipality had to say. It was very interesting listening to them all. I walked out of there kind of thinking maybe the one group of people were kind of quiet and shy, and Moose and me might have got kind of left out of the conversation because something about Red Lake and Fort Francis we seem to talk about. But anyway, we all had, and this was not a timeline thing. We had 30 minutes to talk with him, which is better than just 10 minutes. And I'll let Mark tell you again what we talked to him about, because Mark had also wrote it all up, and what our concerns are that we really want, to probably come back and talk to him in this ministry, and probably at that time we will be requesting funding for various issues.
So it was, as Councillor Barron stated, it was a round table with 2 other communities, half an hour long. It was a transportation and roads round table, and although we were hoping to have just face-to-face time with Minister Rickford, I think this was still a good opportunity, and we spoke to the one item that was part of the briefing note, and that was the proposed road north, or road south. We call it the road north, but Sandy Lake would call it the road south. So we provided Minister Rickford, again, so he's the Minister of Energy, Minister of Northern Development Mines, and Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation. He's a busy guy. So we provided a background on a partnership that has been created, an ad hoc partnership in Red Lake, a direction of council to develop this concentrated group. The lead is McDowell Lake First Nation. So our partners, McDowell Lake First Nation, the Red Lake Indian Friendship Center, the Tiknog Child and Family Services. Our representative there is has an attorney background, but also he's a member of the Ganchkuk First Nation. The rep from the Red Lake Indian Friendship Center, former chief of North Spirit Lake First Nation, and then the McDowell Lake is the band administrator, but the lead is Fontaine, Chief Fontaine. And also the Red Lake Chamber of Commerce has a representative, part of our small concentrated group, which is we're to develop a framework and mandate for a larger group. So what we've done is we created this small table, but the next step is the larger table, which is the communities. And then from there it'll have branches from there as well. But we feel it's very important that it's an inclusive environment, but it's not led by one community, that everyone has a voice at the table. So we explained this to Minister Rickford, explained the group's mandates and where we're at. I informed them of a presentation I had given at the Sulico Area Aboriginal Management Board, which is made up of several, I think there's 30 communities, 7 of which are on our corridor, but all the chiefs were present, and it was a great opportunity to speak to what we're starting here through this partnership. And it was well received. The SLAM, a lot of questions from a lot of communities, and a lot of Chief Dean Owen was quick to address the group and express his support, and that he will be at the table once we get to that community, to the community table. And just explain that once all the communities at our table, then the communities will determine who their stakeholders are. So we're not in a position like, we don't like Toronto telling us what to do. Well, Red Lake, Sandy Lake, just using them as an example, doesn't want Red Lake telling them what to do or who their stakeholders are. So our stakeholders are, there's a number of them. There's the CCDC, there's the hospital, education, there's Firefly, you name it. There are a lot of stakeholders. But that's another step down the road. And we want to do this, this process in a respectful manner, and we'll take our time, because we need to, because we have one chance to do it right, and we can learn from other communities that didn't quite do it right. So it's a great opportunity. I made mention to the minister about the condition, and this came right from Chief Dino when I met with him in July at SLAM. The condition of Nungesser Road, it's deteriorating. A lot of his community members are using that. A lot of Red Lakers are using Nungesser Road as well. It's deteriorated in many areas, and there was talk of potentially making that all one gravel road, and like the whole thing gravel. And that was expressed by someone from Kanchka, that is a potential. So that was very interesting. Minister Rickford said he will definitely look into it. He understands the importance of that road. Also understands the economic impacts that road has for Red Lake today. So it's definitely on their radar. So that was good. That was that.
Okay, moving on to Tuesday. We both went our own ways doing workshops and things like that. The meeting with ministers was over. So I chose to attend Jim Pine's presentation. This is very interesting to me in my other field and in my other life with the Northwestern Health Unit. The topic of the discussion was a checkup on the municipal role of healthcare. And that's one of our big issues in the Northwestern Health Unit. We often sit around the table. When we look for new board members or people to take our places, we always have to refer to the municipalities, and the municipalities always appoint the new members for their organization. And of course, nowadays, they don't always have somebody that's interested in learning everything about Northwestern Health Unit. And so our discussion is, why is this done? Of course, we all come back and say, because we pay a hefty sum of money to the Northwestern Health Unit as fees on an annual basis, so we want to be at the table. So Jim Pine's presentation was a lot on, if they don't really want municipalities at the public health board tables, then maybe they're going to have to come up with another scenario and describe to us what, less money for us to be paying as municipalities into that. So it's food for thought. They want to have people of different age groups at their table. They want to have people that are professionals at their table, and they want to have people that are highly motivated in the technical field. So to find certain people in every town that represents today on our Northwestern Health Unit Board, we're all going to have difficulties in finding those perfect people that they want. So anyway, I asked him if he would, his presentation, we're all going to be able to get it on the website within another week or two. And he said to copy it and take it and give it to them, and they may see that that's not necessarily going to happen overnight, sort of thing. So then after that, I went on to saving money on infrastructure. I went on to roads after I heard about a complete gravel road going up Nungesser Road. There's a talk from somebody from the north. I thought, wonderful, great. We don't really want that because Nungesser Road has always been a very good road to go up there. So this group I went on into, they were trying to explain to us, and I brought a pamphlet home. I gave it to Christina tonight, and it's all on asphalt pavement versus concrete roads, and it covers the efficiencies and the differences that both of these type roads have. So they said, and in that booklet, it'll explain to you the most expensive, of course, is asphalt, and depending on the number of layers and the number of coatings that goes on. Gravel, we don't want gravel roads because there'll be so much damage done to people's vehicles and windshields going like crazy. So you want some kind of coating over it. So the alternative, according to this pamphlet that I bought, is to look at seriously on concrete roads. And concrete roads gives you a hard surface, but not as high quality as the asphalt. But it also is supposed to be able to last longer if you catch the problem at the beginning. And I thought of you, Sandy, as I sat there listening to them talk. You used to always say, fix it at the beginning and you won't have a big problem later on down the road. And this guy used word for word what you've said to us many times. So then after that I thought, okay, what else do I go to? So then I went on to listen to the FCM president, Vicky Ham. She gave us a message on what FCM does, like just an overview of FCM. She said they've got growing pains right now because they're the same as we are, saying many goodbyes because people will not be back to FCM. And at the same time, you're looking at new people after you get a new council, like in 2019, to maybe be replacing some of these members. So you're having your bittersweet experience right now with your goodbyes, and at the same time, you're looking for new members with new ideas. And then after that, they had the announcement from AMO of who the new members were that were voted in. And then after that, to me, one of the climax times of all conventions that I've ever been to AMO was when we had the, what we used to call as the minister session. We used to call it the bear pit session. But this time it was it was 18 people I counted. There might have been 2 more, but 18 for sure I counted. They represented a very large group. They did the same thing as they did last year, which was something new, and they found it much easier. They did not talk. They did not say anything except their names and who they represented. And all the questions came from the floor. The microphones were all sitting there, and all the questions came from elected members of council. And of course, the lineups were like, and it was very well. The questions were direct, and some of them were long, and there was a good monitor, the same one as last year, and he kept it all well under control. But that was a very interesting. There again, they just came into office. They don't know at all about their ministry, and it's very hard to put them on the spot to answer a question right away. So the word that coming up is, I have to get back to you for whatever your question was a common usage. And that was my life down in Toronto at AMO, and I thank you for the opportunity for to be able to go. And of course, we had lots of networking, and we saw a lot of people. I'm not very good at that, so I missed a lot of the hospitality rooms because in my travels that I did go in, I've had at least 12 to 15 people giving their condolences for Phil. And I'm trying to get over this episode of Phil's passing, and it was not that easy. So I left the hospitality rooms, and I let Mark go to. And that's all I'll say.
I was just going to say further to what Councillor Barron had said about they started last year, the ministers just introducing themselves. And the reason that was done, from my understanding, because as you said, it was started last year, is the ministers would usually give an election speech. So by the time they were all done giving their speeches, there was about 10 minutes left for people to ask questions. So this year you get the whole time, and last year to ask questions.
That was nice.
I'll just briefly, if I may, speak to the NOMA delegation we had. So myself, Mr. Mayor, were on the NOMA board, and we met with in one group. So there was, I think there was 9 of us representing NOMA, and we had Minister of Infrastructure McNaughton, Fideli from Finance, Yakubuski from Transportation, Minister Clark from Municipal Affairs and Housing, Thibodeau is Community Safety and Correctional Services, and then, of course, Mr. Rickford, Energy, MDM, and Indigenous Relations. Just briefly, the topics that were brought forward was the railway taxation. This is not a burning issue for Red Lake, obviously, but it is for other communities within NOMA. So again, this is from a regional context. So I actually spoke on the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund We're asking for stabilization there because it's been going down 10% now for several years. We're looking for stabilized funding. Looking for cannabis funding as well because this is now rolling out. So for Ontario, it's going to be in April of 2019. Canada, it's October, but Ontario in April. Something for us to consider, for Red Lake to consider is we have until January 1st, 2019 to decide whether we're going to be allowed for private sale within our community or opt out. So that decision will have to be made at some point here between now and the end of the year. So infrastructure issues, just on the cap and trade, yes, we like that, you know, they've approved to have our gas bills go down. I think they're stating $260 per year for families, savings on the gas. But the concern is that there was the cap and trade funded projects, a lot of green projects. So now the request to the ministers was, so where is this funding going to come for, you know, for these green type, clean energy or green type projects? Another topic was transportation, specifically to busing. Another one was the mandatory certification for firefighters. NOMA wants them to revisit that because they feel we're going to lose volunteers. There's going to be more burden, not burden, but more onus on these volunteers, in Red Lake's case, to do more, other than, you know, I mean, just have more training. And part of that too is the grandfather. You might have someone in Red Lake who's been a firefighter for 30 years, but they won't have this mandatory certification. And do they want to do it at that point? So we're asking the government to relook at that. And the last one, a very important one, is energy. Of course, Ian Agnes, councillor from Thunder Bay, spoke to that. He is a huge asset for our region. He's an expert in the field. But he talked of Red Lake. He talked about upgrading our lines. You know, how are we going to be sending? We don't have enough power now. We're going to be servicing 17 First Nations north of us. And there's new projects out there. So Ian did a really, really good presentation. So that meeting went really well. It was my first one ever, and I really enjoyed it.
Ian, I believe, also covered the Thunder Bay generating stations.
Correct, that's part of the energy. Yes.
Yeah, that they are now looking at shutting down both of them. One has been shut down for a couple of years now. It'll take apparently $5 million to get it up stuff again. There's a crack in one of the boilers. The other one is running on wood pellets. So they're both now designed, if they do go ahead, they want them both designed for wood pellets as well as the one in Anapokan that already is. And the hope is they will both go ahead and continue to generate power for Northern Ontario. And if they were both changed to pellet, if they're all pellets, the hope is that will also give the opportunity to Northwestern Ontario to have 5 or 7 plants open to produce pellets. So he spoke, I imagine, very strongly on that.
Very good. Very much.
It's something he's very, very good at. Any questions or comments to either of our reps? Councilor Moore?
Was there any discussion on OSIP funding at all?
No. There wasn't. It wasn't part of our, well, not specific to OSIP, but there was conversation like on the infrastructure, transportation side of things at the NOMA table that there's lots of talk of money being out there, but we're not seeing any being flowed out.
And that's why I'm asking, because the PCs have been advertising a lot of money will be coming down through infrastructure funding, but no, may not be struggling in the past with being turned down for work that we wanted to do with no reasons as to why. I was kind of curious and interested if there was any discussion on that.
Yeah, it was part of that regional perspective through NOMA.
Okay, thanks.
And even Mark had mentioned the railway taxation. And though it may not seem like a big thing to us, in a lot of ways it isn't. But if a community like Fort Frances, if it went ahead with the proposal, it would raise their assessment, I think, from, I want to say $50,000 to $70,000 to around $7 million on railway. So that could and will have an impact on communities like ours, where the levy from Fort Frances, Dryden, Kenora, that goes to KDSB, Northwestern Health Unit, would go up, potentially ours could go down. So it does affect all of us, or Sioux Lookout as railroads as well.
Correct. Definition.
Yeah. It makes a tremendous difference in, like I believe in Fort Frances now, they don't even get enough money out of the taxation for the railway to repair railway crossings, which of course the government has made them responsible for it. But done the way they do it in the prairies with the cost per ton per mile, it would, I believe Ken said they could get up to $7 million in taxation rather than 50 or 60,000 they get now. Anything else for Mark or CAO or conservator? No? Okay. 12.1 from the CAO, staff report concerning the PDAC convention.
So before you is a recommendation for council to give consideration to attending the PDAC conference in 2019, again to be held in Toronto. Again, and PDAC is the Prospectors Developers Association of Canada. So the convention and trade shows annual event held in Toronto, and as described by the PDAC website, is the world's premier mineral exploration and mining convention. Is a leading convention for people, companies, and organizations, and are connected with mining. Over 1,000 exhibitors, 3,500 investors, 26,000 attendees from 135 countries. Of course, there's like the AMOs of the world. There's a lot of technical sessions and workshops, etc. So there's the province of Ontario attends it. There's federal representation, international government, Aboriginal, First Nation leaders, municipalities, industry, so mining companies, and a lot of students attend as well. Red Lake has been going since, and of course our former mayor, is going since 2007, and has gone every year since. So the purpose of why Red Lake is attended is having representation. It's to help attract investment to Red Lake, investors, families, employees, and new residences to Red Lake, as well as to develop meaningful and valuable connections with various government agencies, various colleagues in the mining industry, etc. The mining companies themselves, they're down there, they're promoting themselves. They're promoting the company. Yes, we might get a nice word about Red Lake, but Red Lake's there to promote Red Lake. Companies are there to promote themselves, to promote their resource, attract investment, etc. So Red Lake was there promoting Red Lake and making those meaningful connections to the mining executives. And those relationships developed with Chuck Genesses and then George Burns of Goldcorp. Those were developed at PDAC through our mayor. That's the bottom line. The financial considerations we provided the last 3 years, so going back to 2016, and in 2016 it was $9,735. Last year was $10,380. And as you've all noticed and read, the cost would be similar. If you sent one person, say a member of council, you'd be looking at roughly $10,600. If a staff member went, you're looking at 9,604. I just want to make note on this though. The membership and booth rental, you would back that out, so it wouldn't be 20,000 to send 2 people. It would be 16,500 to send. So just quoting our strategic plan, we believe in engagement. We believe our best path forward will be found through listening, joining, enabling conversations with the community, our region, the province, federally, and also with global partners, towards more people, more businesses, and also expanded government investments. Alternatives are do not renew the booth. Instead, send 1 or 2 representatives from the municipality to attend the conference only. The other alternative is do not continue to participate in PDAC. And any questions, comments, please feel free.
Just one, Mr. CAO, would actually only cost an extra $4,000. Because you can also back out material shipping and storage.
Oh,
shipping.
yes. Got you.
So I think it's roughly 4,000 additional.
So 14, 15,000. Okay. Good catch.
Councilor Mayor.
I just wonder, in all the years that Mayor Bennett went, did he ever bring back any kind of videos or any kind of, I know he gave us verbal talks all the time, and I know he certainly made a lot of connections, but I just wonder if there's anything ever brought back to get a feel of what that organization was like to go visit, like when you went to the trade show. Because when I first heard about it in 2012 or 13, I used to think should have been more like a mining. Like I didn't realize that the town needed to have that big of involvement in doing booths and all this sort of stuff. And then as it progressed on, then I did see where we fit into the circle there. Because when you read it, you think of prospectors, you think of mining people, you think of that was one of the ways where they could try and get more recruits. And I didn't see where it was really our sort of a deal to be at the table. But I just wondered if there was any documentation here on a video or something. I know I talked to Brenda because she helped set up, and she always sends out all the stuff that has to go, all the pamphlets and all the stuff, piles of boxes and stuff that she always sent out to feed that table and to keep it moving and keep it going. And she said there was a lot of stuff that went, and it was basically just municipality stuff that we accumulated over our time on council. So I just wonder if it should maybe be the next council's decision to decide whether they feel they want to go to it as 1 or 2 people, or whether they want to go the full gamut and do exactly what's been done in the past that our staff are so used to preparing for weeks and weeks and shipping out, and then say if it's not what they should do, then change it for the following year. Because I think most of us around this table have never gone, so we really can't judge. We always got told it was very beneficial to us and very worthwhile. And you take what people tell you is great, but I'm just wondering if it should be maybe the next council's decision when they're making their budgets and stuff, whether they want to put that in or not.
Councilor Goodwin.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, didn't somehow Larry Herbert, Mark Bobinsky always get this picture somewhere?
Correct.
Larry, Mark, quite often, Gary English, John Wickham.
What do they do?
They volunteer in our
Strictly
service.
volunteer?
Yeah.
They don't cost us nothing.
Oh, I was going to mention that.
Thank you.
Councilor Moore.
Couple things I'd like to say. I wholeheartedly agree with Councilor Barron. I think this should be the council's decision. For me to sit here and say, we'll spend $16,000 or thereabouts on a new council coming through, and we don't know who's going to be sitting there. That money could be used towards recreation equipment, could be used towards infrastructure needs that this community is in desperate need of. So I wholeheartedly agree with Councilor Barron. The other thing is, which is part of the discussion that was just had in the sidebar here, with a couple people that go down as volunteers, that may be something to look at, depending on if we go up the next council. If they're volunteering their own time, they may be able to represent the municipality if they're paying everything on their own time and they have an interest in it. That's just my thought.
The only caution I would have, and I'm not saying yes or no, is we don't want to get in the habit of passing everything on to the next council. I think that's a couple of meetings now I've heard that should be up to the next council. Go ahead.
Well, it's hard for me to sit here and say, is Councilor Barron interested, Councilor Quigley, yourself, or me interested in going? We don't know what the future is bringing right now.
I'm not saying we do, I'm just saying let's not get into the habit of passing everything on to the next council.
Well, sure.
Is it too late to make a decision after January 1st?
I'll say.
So, the booth renewal, booths are tough to come by. And the staff report speaks to where the Red Lake booth is. It's in a prime location right next to the province of Ontario there in Simmons. So the booth is reserved. We have until November 22nd to cancel. And if we cancel, then we lose $750. If we wait to the end of, the next step goes November 22nd to December 31st. If you cancel that time period, you lose 50% of your deposit, and anything after January 1st, 2019, anytime after that, you lose 100%.
Go ahead, Councilor.
New council's sworn in December
3rd.
Sorry.
We take turn December 1st, which is a Saturday. Swearing in ceremony is December 4th.
And is there a meeting scheduled after that, like a council meeting, maybe a whole meeting in December?
There would be, yes.
So
Monday off.
So what I'm throwing out there is, instead of us making a decision about how many people travel or what's going, maybe we could, not all the councils agree this or not, still keep the booth and let the new council decide if they do want to attend or not, and if they don't want to attend, then they would forfeit 50%
Correct.
of the council.
So at this time, the motion recommends approving attendance and also approving and continued participation. Is council okay with agreeing to the second part of the staff report at this time?
I'm not sure I can have one without the other.
We can remove this, yeah.
We can just defeat that resolution. Basically, is what we're saying.
We can withdraw it as well.
To withdraw.
Yeah, we can withdraw it at this time without any just information at this time,
Okay.
if council chooses.
So the two options here are to, I'll read you this resolution.
Yeah, the resolution hasn't been placed on the floor yet, so we can withdraw it right now,
We can either withdraw it
or you can state it, and
Vote
then we can
upon it.
vote on it.
two options.
What's the option?
paperwork.
This would be probably to withdraw at this time.
Okay.
And it's just for information at this time, so.
So do I have agreement for that? To withdraw this?
So what are we going to do now? I couldn't quite hear what you said. You're putting the resolution on the table?
No,
We're not leaving it, doing it later.
Yeah. Well, we'll withdraw the motion.
This will be an agenda, sorry. This will be an agenda item in December with the
First reading.
With the new group?
Yep,
Okay.
it'll go to the committee of the whole in December.
So do we have agreement?
Yeah.
Okay. 12.1B, Event Center Engineering Services.
Okay, so the recommendation before you is to select Stantec for the engineering services for the event center. The municipality created a request for proposals RFP for engineering services for the proposed event center projects. The services are to provide a detailed, ready-to-build engineering drawings of the facility and a Class A cost estimate. This information is vital if and when government funding becomes available. So the municipality received 4 proposals. After each proposal was thoroughly read, it was determined that Stantec had the only fixed fee for the project. And the other 3 submissions had floating fees. And so there's a bit of a risk that's associated to that. Plus, the other 3 were over what we anticipated or expected the costs to be for the engineering. On June 18th, Council accepted the recommendation of the Event Center Project Management Team, resolution number EC 0118, regarding funding for the Class A tendered engineering drawings for the Event Center. As you had seen, the resolution was attached. And I open it up to comments or questions at this time.
Councilor Goodwin.
I'll bring a check with you.
The amount is 739,000. And we
Stantec?
Stantec, yeah.
The others.
Councilor Mona.
In regards to Stantec, would they be given a date to have this completed by in case there's announcements for funding coming up in the Bedford province?
Correct, there is. They're proposing to have it done, the Class A done, everything done by March 30th of 2019. But there's steps as you get through. So the funding's announced in September, or not September, but it'll likely be later this year, we anticipate, given that there's municipal elections. That we're going to be close enough, because right now we have a global estimate, they call it, and that is just shy of a Class C. So the intent, as we had discussion before, the intent is when these funding programs come out, Red Lake's going to be ready, and Red Lake will continue to be first out of the gate, as several ministers have alluded to.
And that's why I'm asking if we're going to ask Stantec to have this completed by a certain date, so Red Lake is, here you go.
Yeah, we don't know exactly when the programs will be announced, but Red Lake will be further ahead than anyone else in our region.
Okay, fabulous, thank you.
Councilor Barron.
And one more question with regard to, this will be our second study, right? We had one quite a few months ago, and this is the second one. The 739 in the Class A, so if we have these 2 studies and open houses and all the rest we're going to do involved, do we have to do anything more, or after this study, does that mean it's good to go? If there's money coming available, we're good to start, or do we have to do more studies because it is adding up on studies and study fees and so on and so forth. So I kind of gather, and this is the same money we talked about a month ago, only it's gone down a little bit in price, right? For this one. Because I'm just wondering how many studies do we have to do on the topic before it gets off the ground, or it doesn't get off the ground? Because this is a big ticket item. And it's a big, got a lot of complications involved, and if the study's going to be done and if you can't actually do it, because we all know that it's a big project, because we got told that in the first study how much it might cost us to build this. So I'm just questioning, does the study last? I hate seeing studies made, sticking on your shelf or somebody else's shelf in this building, collecting dust, and say we can't do it. Say you're looking at $30 million to ever do this project, and we don't have the bucks, we don't have the money to do it. Because I think we had kind of just roughly talked about after the first study, hopefully we get 10 from the feds and 10 from the provincial and 10 from us. That would be wonderful if we ever could do that. But you know, we're not sure where this money, there's no real money in my eyes right now for this project in reserves and stuff. And I'm just questioning these two studies that we will have at the end of time, will they stay good? Because sometimes they want to have a shelf life on them and say, no, we got to do them again. And after spending this much money on these two studies, if something happens, we can't find money to build this big capital issue, then does the studies have to be all redone again?
So the feasibility study, that one was conceptual.
Yep.
Right? It's an idea.
Yep.
And a lot of community input. So this one, this is the ready to go to tender for the construction
Right.
of it. However, if it's nothing happens for 5-8 years, there is that inflation that you would have to revisit, but it doesn't create a whole new. You're not starting from scratch. You're adjusting numbers. So it's minimal work compared to what this proposal is.
This is how to build it, essentially. You're not going to have to do, unless there's, it'll cost you X amount for this and that. You're still going to have engineered drawings
Correct.
to be based off of, right?
Correct.
You don't have to redo that.
And studies, yes, that's in the environment in which we
You have to
do
do it
business.
in order to get the money.
In order to get bucks.
So, and the message from AMO was, with this government, there'll be less of that. There'll be less red tape. So they're going to try to make it easier. That's the message I heard.
Yeah, when we ready to check this year, next year, what budgets? Yeah, a few questions.
Thank you.
Can I answer that?
Okay, but if that's part of his answer, because isn't it coming out of that reserve fund that we are transferring?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, that's what we talked about just last month, because we don't have $730,000 earmarked this project. There's no money in this project. It has $0. And I think we had talked around this table that we were going to transfer, which I really question that sometimes, money from infrastructure from a Lassie Road project or some road project that we've been rejected on doing their project. And we were going to take this money and put it towards this, and then hope that there's going to be more money come from gas tax or Lord knows where, so that you can pay back this here Lassie Road project where you take it, because it seems like you're borrowing internally from one reserve to another. That's the way I read it. Am I wrong, or have I missed another step in the process? We are still taking 739 now instead of 750 out of somebody's reserve that we have real money in it. Have we got real money for this 739, or are you borrowing 50?
Okay, so as stated in a previous meeting where council agreed that this would be funded from not doing the Lassie project because we didn't get the OSEP funding. That is borrowed money. So come next year, OCIF, if we get approved for Lassie again, because Lassie still is the only one that's a significant project that fits. We just need that approval. That we would utilize gas tax money for that, because gas tax fits that. It doesn't fit an engineering study. However, keeping in mind, as stated in the staff report, we are seeking funding from NOHFC, from the funding partners we had in the feasibility study. We had NOHFC, so that's Northern Ontario Heritage Fund, FedNor, and FCM, Federation of Canadian Municipalities. We're going back to those partners to fund. So we will be seeking 90% funding. No guarantees, but we will be seeking that funding.
Councilor Mocha. Good. So what I'm hearing here is we're going to fund $739,000 unbudgeted dollars. But and this is where I sometimes get a bit confused. We don't want to put $26,000 out to the next council, but we have no problem putting $740,000 out to the next council.
And on question us being a lame duck council, how can we do that? You know, because I read what this next item is going to be from the clerk's report.
Yeah.
And if you're a lame duck council, you're not supposed to be putting big capital buildings. You're not. There's different 3 or 4 topics she's got in there. So how do you put $739,000 talking right off the bat? Guess what? Congratulations, you're on council, but we just gave you that much debt that you got that you don't know anything about.
So we'll reference back to the resolution back in June when council voted to move forward on this. And the number was $750,000.
Yeah, 750.
That was part of it. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but that decision was made in June.
They were committed in June. We committed them in June. Okay? So where's the real money to pay when you cut that check tomorrow, or the next day, or the next month, whoever cuts the check? Do we have real money, or do we have to go out and borrow some more money to pay that $739,000?
So, again, as I stated earlier, at this point, it would be borrowed money.
So we're
as
borrowing.
stated back in June, it would be borrowed. It would not flow all in this year, 2018. The majority of it would flow in 2019.
Because that was not budgeted at all.
That money was budgeted in 2018, but not specific. Not specific to this. It was specific to OCIF last year.
Okay. So we're covered under the budget, but you still got to borrow money because we have $100. Got it.
And then hope you don't have to borrow $800,000 next year to do the work. Any other discussion? Moved by Councillor Barron, seconded by Councillor Motor. Resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Red Lake accepts the recommendation of staff report number RAC 2001-804 from the Facilities, Parks and Rec Department regarding the Event Center request for proposals, and be it further resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Red Lake hereby approves to enter into an agreement with Stantec Architectural Limited for engineering services for the Event Center. All in favor? Opposed? And not voting? Okay. I only saw 2 hands. That's why I asked opposed. Oh.
You're looking for me to say.
Well, yes or no?
I have to go no on this.
I think Alex was saying yes or no.
I am afraid I have to go no as well.
Are we doing a recorded vote?
I think we should.
Okay.
So what now?
We're doing a
Recorded vote.
Is that what I'm hearing from council?
Recording vote? Okay,
So Councillor Barron, yea or nay? Are you in favor or opposed?
I'm opposed to this resolution.
Councillor Bigelow.
Favor?
I'm a nay. And Councillor Mota.
Resolution here, and correct me if I'm wrong, or the recommendation is to select Stantec for the engineering services for the event center, correct? I'm for it.
The resolution is two parts.
It's to select Stantec for the engineering services for the event center.
That's not what this is.
Which is in effect entering into the report down.
Yeah, what does the first part say? To accept that report.
Yes. Which is the recommendation. This is the recommendation in the report. So by accepting the report, you're accepting the recommendation.
I'm still a nay.
All right, as long as council realizes that it's a defeated motion,
Yeah.
it's tied. So we'll be bringing forward the bylaw then?
Goshen Arena hot water tank.
The arena requires a new hot water tank, and we will be installing a natural gas water tank, and we will be utilizing gas tax money to convert that. It's obviously an important component to the arena. Gas tax allocations this year. We're moving forward with converting the RPS in Bombertown. It was budgeted at $82,000 gas tax money. The quote came in $32,000. So we have available funding on completing a project that we must do if we want to have an arena this year.
And what's the cost of that?
The cost is $12,685.84 plus non-refundable taxation, which is 1.76%. So it's just shy of $14,000.
Any discussion, questions? None? So, staff report regarding lame duck period.
So this staff report is for council's information. We are currently in a lame duck status. We will continue to be so until November 30th. However, council adopted a bylaw in February which provides CAO with delegated authority to act where council cannot act in terms of the restrictions in accordance with section 275 of the Municipal Act, and they're listed as items A through D. So basically it's my job as the clerk to report to council that we are in a lame duck situation or status and will continue to be so until November 30th. But we have safeguards in place for that.
Any questions? Moved by Councilor Moritz, seconded by Councilor Barrett. Resolved, the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Red Lake hereby receives staff report clerk 201809 from the Clerk's Department regarding lame duck period July 27, 2018 to November 30, 2018 for information. All in favor? Moved by Councilor Goodwillie, seconded by Councilor Moda. Resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Red Lake hereby adjourns the meeting at the call of the mayor. All in favor? Carried.
I resent you call it.